Okay. Finally, we are on chapter 8, creativity. Uh, Before we dive in, I want to share a quote that really sets the tone for what we are going to explore today. So it's from the chairman of Moban and Debbie. So no mistakes are your own. If you are in your 20s or 30s, you should take on challenges. So challenge yourself with your own dreams at least twice. You may fail, but failure is just proof that you tried. It's a trace of dreaming bigger dreams. So I love this quote actually, so because it perfectly captures what creativity is really about. So it's about trying, experimenting, and yes, sometimes failing, but every failure is evidence that you dare to dream bigger. So now let me ask you a question. So if someone were to ask you right now, are you a creative person? What would you say? So most of you would probably say no or I'm not sure or so I am. And you know what? That's completely normal. So most people believe they are not creative. But here is the thing that belief is based on a my misconception. The misconception is that creativity is innate, that you are either born with it or you are not. But I'm here to tell you today that creativity can be learned and developed. So, and that's exactly what we are going to focus on in this lecture. So, by the end of today's session, you will understand where creativity comes from and why it matters in today's world. And most importantly, you will learn practical techniques that you can use immediately to become more creative. So, let's get started. Okay, so part one. So why creativity matters? So let me begin by painting a picture of the world we live in today. So think about the last time you went to shopping for shoes. Maybe you went to a physical store like ABC Mart in Korea, or maybe you browse online. So how many options did you see? Hundreds? Thousand? The variety is absolutely overwhelming, isn't it? Now, here is an interesting question. By what criteria do people purchase choose among all these options? Some people might give up design to buy something cheap. Oh, sorry. So others might pay significantly more to purchase a special design or a limited edition item. So, and some might prioritize the special functions over design or price entirely. So, but here is what's fascinating. This abundance of choice is actually a relatively recent phenomenon. Okay, so let me take you back just 20 years. In the past, there were not many alternatives when choosing shoes, bags, or really any consumer products. So I'm gonna write it. So not too much options actually. So in the previous manufacturing paradigm, the main goal of companies was very simple. So mass consumption achieved by lowering production cost through the mass production. So which means that mass consumption achieved what? By lowering production costs through the mass production. So notice I said mass production, producing large quantity of a small number of product types. Okay, right? So even just 20 years ago, producing unique products or limited edition items was a huge challenge from a company's perspective. So the production costs were high and inventory management was a nightmare. It simply was not economically viable for most companies. But nowadays, everything has changed. People don't want mass produced anymore. So uniform products anymore, right? They want individualized products as well. Individualized products, not a mass produce uniform products as well. So they want something unique, something that reflects their personal taste and identity. So, and companies have responded. They are now producing products that reflect consumers' diverse needs by utilizing cutting-edge technologies. So technologies like small batch production systems and 3D printers have made it possible to match these consumer trends without breaking the bank. So, with the standardization of technology, so even small companies, on-person businesses, and freelance designers can produce various high-quality products at relatively low cost. So think about that for a moment. A freelance designer working from their apartment can now compete with established brands. A one-person business can offer customized products that were impossible to produce economically just a decade ago. So this has created a fundamental shift in the marketplace. The product life cycle have shortened dramatically. So technology changes quickly, right? So consumer preferences evolve even faster. And here is the key points. In this environment, creative products are the ones chosen by consumer. So if your product is not creative, if it does not stand out, if it does not offer something unique, it gets lost in the sea of alternatives. Okay. So we are going to move to the next one. But creativity is not just about products and business. We encounter moments in our daily lives where creativity is needed all the time. So even for school presentation assignment, you need creative ideas or methods to get good evaluation, don't you? So in food competition or music audition programs, creative performance is absolutely required. Let me share a real example with you. There is a fascinating case from a world of K performance. So in September 2020, maybe 3 years ago, so the one in art troupe led the Gyeonggi Shinami assembled to perform at the Theatre Dramatique in Warszawa, Warsaw, Poland. So this was the first stop of their European tour. So what made this performance special is they broke the traditional frame. So instead of sticking to conventional Korean traditional music, they created what critics called the newest sound, a collaboration between foreign percussion instruments and Korean traditional instruments. So the review from the Polish theater representatives described it as not just a fusion of music, but Dionysus that breaks throat. So the performance was so powerful, so creative, that the audience could not help but stand up and give applause. So they called it K-performance inflation, this creative approach to traditional art that captivated audience worldwide. So this is the part of creative. So why does creativity matter? Oh, sorry. So first, consumer choice and product diversity demanded. In a world of endless options, only creative products win. Second, shortened product life cycle mean you can't rely on the same old approaches. You need to constantly innovate and create. Third, everyday requirement in school, work, and life demand creative thinking. So, and here is the key insight I want you to take away. Creativity is not just for artists. It's an essential skill for entrepreneurs, students, professionals, anyone who wants to solve problems effectively and succeed in the modern world. So now I know what some of you might be thinking. That's great, Professor, but I'm just not a creative person. Mhm. And that's exactly the barrier we need to break down, right? So here's a part two. Here is something important. I want you to understand, even if you can't confirm your creativity right now, it's latent. So it's there inside you, so waiting to be developed. If you train creative thinking methods that can manifest this latent creativity, you will become a creative person before you even realize it. So let's get practical. So I'm going to teach you 6 powerful creative thinking techniques. These are not abstract theories. So these are tools you can use immediately. So first technique is PMI method. PMI means plus, minus, interesting. So this method was developed by Edward de Bono, a psychologist from Malta, as part of his CORT program. That's the Cognitive Research Trust Creative Thinking Ability Development Program. So which means that creative thinking ability development program. Which means that, but don't need to memorize it, but just write to know that. So let me walk you through how it works. So first, you select an idea that you want to evaluate using the PMI. So you explain the purpose and background of why you are analyzing this particular idea. So second, you list all possible advantages or reasons for liking the selected idea. This is the plus part. So why do you like this idea? What are its strengths? So then you think about how to better utilize these advantages. So third, so I'm going to write it, better to utilize these advantages. The third part, you list all possible disadvantages or reasons for disliking the idea. So this is the minus part, so disadvantage thing. So why don't you like this idea? So what problem does it have? Then you present causes and countermeasure for these negative points. Negative points. And first, you list all interesting points about the idea. So this is the interesting part. What do you find intriguing about it? So what's unique or unusual? So, and here is the key. You use these interesting points as a source for deriving new alternatives. And fifth, you make a comprehensive evaluation based on the ideas generated at each stage. So now, why is this method so powerful? It's not complex, simple. So anyone can use it easily. But by analyzing and evaluating proposed ideas from multiple perspectives, plus, minus, and interesting PMI, it develops your creative thinking ability to generate better ideas. So also, since decisions are made after examining ideas from these three different perspectives, it prevents you from making judgments based purely on emotions. So you are forced to think critically and objectively. And perhaps most importantly, it helps you derive new ideas from existing ones. That interesting. So category is particularly powerful for this. So let me give you a quick example. Let's say the idea is implementing remote work for all employees. Okay, so what is a plus? So employees save commute time, of course. Save commute time. And reduce office cost. And better work-life balance. Work and life balance. And access to good global talent. This is the plus. And what is the minus? Negative things. Maybe communication, right? And how to build the company culture is a part of the communication, of course, but I'm gonna write it. So how to build culture, company culture, and maybe potential productivity issues, maybe, and also for employees, home office setup cost as well. And what is the interesting? I so could lead to hybrid model. Yes. So might change how we measure productivity and could reduce our carbon footprint significantly. So see how this forces you to think from multiple angles and notice how the interesting point could spark entirely new ideas. So like developing a new productivity measurement systems or creating a hybrid work model. So this is the PMI method in action as well. The PMI is very simple, right? So I hope everyone understands it. Uh, maybe we have okay. It's enough time to explain for second technique, APC method. So APC means alternative, possibility, choices. So this techniques is all about thinking about as many alternatives as possibilities as possible. It's frequently used in economics, and while there's no specific rigid method for assuming alternatives and possibilities, it's a technique that intentionally makes you choose alternatives and possibilities. Now, Edward Bono, the same psychologist who developed the PMI method, talked about something he called the venue effect of small village. So let me explain this concept because it's brilliant. So imagine the people living in a small isolated village. These villagers are likely to think that the most beautiful woman in their village is the most beautiful woman in the world. So now, could she actually be the most beautiful woman in the world? Sure, it's possible, but the probability is extremely slim, right? So why do the villagers think this way? It's because they have not seen other beautiful women. They haven't seen alternatives. So they cannot even imagine that there might be a woman more beautiful than the one in their village. So, in other words, we tend to be overly confident in our explanation when we fail to establish alternatives. So, this happens to us all the time in decision making, right? So, in the decision making process. So we settle on the first solution we find or the first explanation we come up with because we have not explore alternatives. So the APC method forced us to break out of this trap. So by intentionally thinking about alternatives and examining other possibilities, we can overcome problems like the Venus effects of a small village. So before you settle on any solution, ask yourself what else could work, what other possibilities exist, what alternatives have not I considered. So I'm gonna write it. What else could work? What other possibilities exist? What alternatives have not I considered? So this simple practice of deliberately seeking alternatives can dramatically improve the quality of your decisions and the creativity of your solutions. Okay, so now we take a break and we move on to next technique.